I am so excited to bring you such a beautiful, sophisticated, incredible goddess, Anna Marti. I have known this goddess since I was 19 years old. And I used to clean the studios at Body Move Studio in Portland, Oregon, cleaning the floors and washing the windows in exchange for yoga and dance and movement therapy. And I was in love with Body Move Studio. It was like my second home. And I really did feel like I found my God, my goddess, my connection to source at Body Move Studio. It really was the beginning of my awakening journey. And there was this amazing woman, Anna Marti, the owner, that I looked up to so much because she was so sophisticated and so sexy and so mysterious. I was very intrigued by her. And now I have her right here for an interview. So I'm so excited to have her. She's a beautiful intimacy coach and, just an example and an embodiment of the goddess. So I'm so happy you're here, Anna.
Thank you so much, Schamet. And as you were describing that, what I thought about you and honoring you, because I had this studio with my former partner, and a lot of people want to dance. And then immediately, well, I don't have enough money to do that. So they're not even out of the gate. And they go, well, that's not available to you. And the truth is we had all kinds of needs of maintaining the studio. And so it really points to your own following wisdom, which is rare, which is like, I want to dance here. What can I do? And I think that actually touches into some of the things we might be talking about, is that capacity to return and find our own wisdom and follow.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Thank you for giving me that opportunity. I really loved it. It was such an amazing time in my life. And, it's so beautiful that you're an intimacy coach, because I could feel that, that connection that awakened in me by your offering. And I'd love to hear, what you feel is a goddess, and also what your feelings are about the awakening and the redemption of the feminine spirit.
Wow. That's so interesting, because that's not a language that I use in my work. I tend to be very, very pragmatic. I want, like your cousin in Southern Indiana, to be able to relate, to not feel anything in the way of how can she connect more to themselves? How can they relax more with how they're showing up right now, not this kind of future when I get all this together. So what I like to say about the work I do is I support people in relaxing with how they're showing up to life. Specifically, people come to me because they see the word Tantra, and I'm a neo-Tantra leader and facilitator, and I'm a traditional Tantric student. And neo-Tantra is generously an appropriation of a little Hinduism and Buddhism and Taoism, oriented toward more consciousness in erotic expression, from which is a good thing, right? From the physical, more pleasure, connecting emotionally, greater sense of connection. Culturally, I work with people that are marginalized, trans, disabled. Being sexual erotic allows us to feel part of a larger erotic expression, cultural expression, and spiritual sex, which is not Tantra. But there are some people, not very many, who actually experience the erotic field as a portal to transcendence. So I realize I've totally kind of taken a left turn from your question about the awakening, but I can bring it back to what traditional Tantra is. Traditional Tantra, which is not a religion, it's a spiritual technology about waking up. And the body is inclusive of how we wake up, because the body is always in present time. Traditional tantric practice is about using all our senses, what you smell and hear and touch and taste, using our senses as that vehicle for that awakening. The misperception is that Tantra is about sex, traditional Tantra, and it takes up about that much space in the huge lexicon of tantric practice, which includes the same, many of the same things yoga does, asana and pranayama and kriya, and meditation is a huge piece. And as far as the sexual component, if you've been studying with a teacher for many, many years, to begin to unpack those habits of body, mind, and emotion, that identification with me, what I want, what I don't want. You've been doing that for like years and years, and perhaps your teacher determines that it was appropriate for you to participate in a highly contained erotic ritual. It would be because you've already dismantled the underlying reasons about why most of us in human form connect erotically. I want to feel good. I want you to feel good. If you get turned on, I feel a reflected sense of self. It's like, I'm okay. I want to be loved. That's dismantled in traditional Tantra, but that's mostly not us. We're not living in that place. And thank goodness to the kinds of summits and platforms that you're creating, we have an opportunity to unpack, to examine what are the habits of body, mind, emotions that are preventing me from accessing my wisdom, from feeling that sense of freedom. And I think that's a huge word, particularly for the feminine, because, as we sit here in relative privilege, there are millions of women around the world that will not have access to this, that do not have anything close to freedom. So,
yeah.
I want to hold them with us as well.
Thank you. That's really beautiful. So beautiful, Anna. Yeah. And how do you feel that that we can help them have more freedom? Like, do you have any ideas about the things that we can, with our privilege, do to make a difference?
Everyone has a different capacity, and I think that's really important as well. I think particularly for your audience, and I think women are notorious for comparison. And then they look at what someone else is doing. They've been told what they should do from the time, probably before they were still in utero. This is what my child should be doing. This is what someone in a cis female body should be doing. So I want to be careful. So everyone has to come into truth with their own, with their capacity. So for some people, it's working directly with women, working in shelters, helping people. For some people, it's resources. If you have resources, money can be incredibly helpful. Connecting with one another, being honest about our sense of, how we compare ourselves, our judgments of our sisters. So, these are all part of traditional yoga as well. I think it's satya, truth, telling the truth. Am I telling, how do I practice telling the truth to myself and telling the truth to you? So there's lots of ways. and I'm in Portland, Oregon, and one of the things that I've loved, and I haven't been able to in a physical form since we've been on shutdown, which is I've taught yoga in the women's prison, actually men's and women's prison. And I know in many parts of the world, particularly Europe, that is way more civilized, turns out, than the United States, they're dismantling. They don't have a prison system. If people have mental illness issues, those are treated. If people need job skills, but in the United States, we have a terrible criminal justice system. And particularly women are incarcerated. It's an industry. It's an industry. So people that are listening that are from the United States, if you can become familiar with really what's happening in the criminal justice system, and that's a real stream to change this world that we're living in as far as empowering the feminine, because what we're really living in is a caste system here. And crime, suicide, addiction, it's because of the caste system that's in place. So those are things that we can address by calling them out, by how we vote, by our activism. So, yeah, I think awakening the feminine has an element of activism in it.
Definitely. I agree with you completely. That's good to hear. Yeah, great. And so could you talk a little bit more about the awakening and what that means exactly? And also any tips you have on how we can continue to awaken our consciousness?
Thank you. Well, that's a great, huge question. It most definitely is a personal journey, and everybody's coming in at a different place in that awakening. For me, I've been following a thread all my life, and it's interesting, and I'm going to guess that you have as well. For some people, sometimes there's some kind of suffering involved. I just read a quote somewhere, wish I had it in front of me, that that it's delightful. Wonderful experiences are just delightful. It's just kind of like we can swim in that. But really, when one is ignited to act, usually some kind of suffering, maybe a death or the loss of a relationship, or loss of identification, perhaps with a career, a sense of who they thought they were. So some people show up with that kind of longing. I showed up with that kind of longing. I think it kind of kicked in for me probably when I was a teenager, maybe close to 18. And just this, what's going on here? Who am I? What's happening? And so following that, those are the questions to follow. And teachers are important. Teachers are super important. Again, I know you've been out of the country for a long time, but it's writ large in the United States. It's this kind of rugged individualism. I can do it myself. And we don't have a great relationship with teachers. And we put teachers up on this kind of pedestal, and they're still humans. And so when they don't quite meet our expectations, then we discard them. And of course, there are some teachers that are deeply flawed. I mean, as humans, we're deeply flawed. But as my teacher, said to me, everything in the world is showing up for me to relax my reactivity. Everything is showing up for me to relax my reactivity. That can be a door in. So for our listeners, begin to notice on a physical level, what does my reactivity feel like? Does my jaw get tight? Does my heart start beating quickly? Is my respiration increased? And my shoulders coming up to my ears? It's like, okay, what's happening here?
Yeah.
That's my physical body informing me. And what happens is, because we've got these highly developed frontal lobes as human beings, we kind of like filter that activation through history and memory. So it's not always like potent about like, how can I grow through this? I think particularly in these times with the pandemic, with the kind of social and political upheavals that are happening globally, the first thing you and I can do is relax our nervous system. On a day-to-day practice, to be showing up for our families, for our neighbors, for ourselves, for our enhanced immune systems. If I'm not tuned into my body and how I'm in these different kind of states of activation, the system deteriorates, and I can't be of service to myself, and I can't be of service to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you for that. That makes so much sense. And I love how intuitive you are, Anna, because that was the question I was going to ask, is what can we do during these times of such intensity with the coronavirus and everything else. And I love that. If we can just, relax each and every day, that is going to boost our immune system, isn't it?
Yeah, and it could be just little things. It's like, how do I feed myself? Am I getting outside for just a few minutes a day? Am I hydrated enough? Some of these things, if we examine them, they're actually in the way of connecting very deeply. It's like, oh, I don't have time to drink any water today. I have all these things to do. And I think that is the gift of the feminine, is that we culturally, at least as westernized women, been given so much more permission to access our bodies.
Yeah.
Humans that are born in a cis male body, it's like, be a big boy, that doesn't hurt. And so they've been conditioned to not have access. So we, not all of us, many women have experienced incredible trauma, but we have been given more permission to connect to the body, to use the body as kind of our, I use this analogy, and it's a little dated, but have you heard of canary in the coal mine? Have you heard that phrase? So
No.
before they had very, technologically advanced safety features for coal mines, to let them know when there was diminished oxygen, they'd send down a canary.
Oh.
So the canary, if the canary passed out, you knew that you had to get the miners out of there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So our bodies are those canaries. And if I can sense that, anymore, I'm pretty finely tuned to that. You and I have been doing, dancing and doing body related practices, since we were quite young. But I can notice, my stomach's tight or my shoulders are tight. And if I can catch that before my nervous system gets totally hijacked, so that I'm in my brainstem, which is fight, flight, freeze, or collapse, then we don't have access to wisdom. Then we don't have access to our that Shakti, that life force, that life energy, that juice.
And so, yeah, that's so important, isn't it? It's just connecting back into that Shiva, that Shakti energy. I love that so much. And so, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do in your sessions? Can you kind of share a little bit about what does an intimacy coach do? And if I came to see you for a session, what would I gain from that experience?
Yeah. people come to me on a really broad continuum of objective, from people that have sexual or relational issues because they've kind of come in through the neo-tantra stream, to people that have a curiosity about tantra or a serious interest, and people that are just interested in relaxing in their bodies and perhaps accessing more of that sensuality. Often a combination of those three. I am working virtually with some people. I see one or two people in person a week. You know, it's interesting the way we construct our realities. To, like, you know, one person is all, you know, it takes. But you know, I vet for, you know, safe COVID practices, and yeah, there's a combination of teaching and coaching, because we were all absent on the day of school where they handed out the textbook for the successful erotic life. You know, I don't know. I missed it. I don't know about you. I missed that guidebook. And so some of it, you know, for some people, it's just information. Information about how sexual function is, information about how energy moves in their body. So generally, whether I'm working virtually or in person, the first at least half hour, 40 minutes is information. I like to feel like I connect people to internal and external resources. So internal resources might be, you know, how do they manage their nervous system? How do they actually wake up their skin? You know, wake up their genitals. You know, wake up, you know, every part of their physical body. How do they connect in with their breath? Breath is so significant. I used to say, and I haven't used it for a long time, but if you start doing any kind of breath work, there's a good news and a bad news thing. The good news, if you do breath work, is you'll feel more. And you know what the bad news is?
You'll feel more.
So as a tantric practitioner, I want to cultivate this, you know, this internal capacity so that I can visit the ends, that spectrum of being able to feel, you know, not only deep ecstasy and joy, but also grief and the suffering of the world. Because a truly passionate human has the capacity to feel that entire spectrum. And you don't get one without the other. You can't experience, first of all, you don't get to experience joy and bliss and happiness and passion because you would get bored. I mean, it's just like if you had the same, you know, if you thought of your favorite meal, and then I told you you had to have that exact meal Wednesdays and Fridays for the rest of your life, you know, you would tire of it in just weeks. So that capacity to dance and find, one of my colleagues says, happiness for no reason. You know, that, you know, even in the suffering of the world, just be able to be present with it. And there's a level of enjoyment, which sounds a little contradictory, but there's like, you know, we watch movies of things getting blown up, and we watch, you know, these incredibly dramatic things, and we're enjoying it. So that's what God does. This whole life is the play of God. All of it has been made by reality. All of it is.
I love that. I love that so much. And I love that we were talking a little bit before we started the video. And I love that, you know, Anna asked me, you know, what my husband did. And I said something like, oh, it's not spiritual work. And she says, oh, it's all spiritual work. Right. And I love that. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, because I think that's really important and very key for people to understand, because we do tend to separate, and it almost feels like it, especially in America right now, not so much in Europe, but that things have become really bipolar, you know, very, this is good and this is bad, this is black and this is white.
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking about that. I love practicing it. And I think that's the that's certainly something that, being a traditional tantric student, because in traditional tantra there is no morality. There's no this is good, this is bad. Reality is experienced as this cascading expression of consciousness and energy, from the most dense to the most subtle. So, we could talk about desire. You might have a desire for cookies, right? Or you have a desire for beautiful things in your home, or you have a desire for your children to be well, your husband to be well. You have a desire for the awakening of the feminine. You have a desire for awakening of the planet. And so you can feel the desire of cookies, which is still desire. It's just kind of desire with a little compression around it, and then it gets more and more subtle. Large view, still desire. And it can be, that's an interesting learning curve, because some people are very attached to their binary opinions and judgments. This is good, this is bad. It's really very kind of Abrahamic, Judeo-Christian, sin and, angels and devils, right? And I can say that, especially going into prisons and working with men and women in prisons. And there are people, when I say I go into prison, they go, "Oh, aren't you scared?" And they're you and me. They are you and me. They're beautiful, kind, compassionate people that maybe were at the wrong place at the wrong time, or had circumstances that create some desperation. But I guess I would challenge our audience to notice when they find themselves in that judgment, that what one person does has more value than another. I've met people that were parking lot attendants that did their work with such devotion, with such presence. And I've met people that say they're spiritual practitioners that, have a sense of arrogance and, maybe not living from a place of compassion and kindness. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. It is the kindness, the devotion is the word. Devotion is a word that I use a lot. And we haven't spoken a lot about the sexual aspect of what I do, but one thing I incite people to do, if they don't remember anything else I say, is to bring a level of devotion to their content. And what informs my life and my work is the very existential reality that certainly now is confirmed on every news platform and web feed, which is, I don't know that it's not my last day. And I don't know that you're not the last person I speak with. And if I keep that in the front of my consciousness, it will totally transform how I engage with everyone. But most potently, the people that we're close to. So, when you see your husband, when you see your children, like that, if that devotion is in, running from your heart right into your hands, and your breath. And because we have this running like, oh, she said that to me yesterday, or he forgot to make those calls, or all the ways that we hold ourselves back from that quality of devotion.
Beautiful, 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 Anna. Thank you. That was my next question. Every question I have, you answer before I even ask it. It's great. I love it. So, how can people find you? Do you do your work online, or
Yeah, I do. I have a web presence. It's my name,
Yeah.
www.annamarti.com. I don't have a newsletter. I'm on Facebook. I'm pretty easy to find. There's been such a co-opting of spirituality, in the last 50 years. I mean, certainly as an arm of Western capitalism, it's like, what can we make money off of anything? So, there's been a push that, people really monetize what they do. And because of my connection to the spiritual traditions of what I do, it's like, I keep a pretty low profile. Doesn't make me better than anybody else, but I just, plus I'm a little bit lazy. I will own that. As far as like marketing and producing materials, but I love connecting with people. I love doing things like this, and so you can find me through my website, find me through Facebook. I am on Instagram and let's see that.
It's okay. I'll put all that. I'll put all that information up. Anyway.
I don't pay any attention to it. I don't pay any attention to it. So I'm easily found. I do work virtually. I work in person. I both virtually and in person. I have coaching sessions and intimacy sessions, and intimacy sessions just have a little broader energetic experience.
Yeah, and and you work with couples as well.
Yeah, I work with couples. I work with individuals. Any all genders, orientations, relationship styles.
Yeah, it's so needed. The work you're doing, Anna, is just so needed and so powerful. I didn't get taught about sex when I was young. I didn't have anyone showing me or telling me or enlightening me. And so it's a beautiful, beautiful thing that you're offering humanity to awaken your consciousness through intimacy and sensual and sexual energy. I know personally, I have made some amazing connections on a spiritual level through sexuality and sensuality, and have had that direct awakening of consciousness through that practice. And it's very, very powerful. And I have a huge amount of respect for the work that you do. I think it's just, I remember when I was young, I was so mystified by you. And now that I'm older, I don't think I ever told you that, but yeah. And now that I'm older, I just have such a deep respect because it's huge work and it's very needed. So, and I love how humble you are about it.
I also want to, there's a lot of pressure, particularly on women around, women and men, about being sexual. And it's just one stream. There are so many streams, and I'm thinking of so many of them in this summit, that for some people, the erotic is a stream. It's like, oh yeah, I can really connect with this. I can connect with this material. But for some people, it's music. For some people, it's dancing. For some people, it's meditation. For some people, it's nature. So I want to be clear that in no way am I or you and I together implying that, yes, being sexual is what you're supposed to do. It's like, there's some people that spend their whole lives and that's not a stream for them. So I have so much respect for everybody, and particularly women, and what they choose.
That's a really good thing to bring up, because we think that, if we're not being sexual, then we're somehow blocked or not being who we are. But I love how that you just brought that up, because even if we're channeling it through dance, or we're channeling it through movement, or we're channeling it through art. I mean, I'll go long periods of time, and my husband as well, because we've been together for 20 years in 1998, that we won't be intimate on that level, because we are giving birth to creative ideas, we're doing, we're channeling all that energy in different ways, but nothing's wrong. But society would say there is, the expectations would say there is something wrong. And so I love that you clarified that. I think that's, we could talk for an hour about just about that, I think.
That's very cultural. It's very cultural and time specific. And again, hooks into people wanting you to feel like you're not enough, and if they sell you something. So if you'll notice, pretty much all media has this actually implicit or explicit kind of promise of erotic fulfillment. You'll be beautiful, you'll have a partner. So it's, again, unpacking these kind of superficial levels of marketing and commercialism that get in the way of us finding out what our true expression is.
Beautiful, beautiful, Anna. So if there was one thing that you could say to the world right now that would help us all relax a little bit more, what would it be?
Oh, let's see. Well, I would ask those of us who are with us in this moment, whenever they see this, to take a moment and drop their awareness right into their heart. Just like you were entering this space, this very potent light that resides in each of us. Doesn't matter who you are, where you live, what you've done. For this moment, there's nothing to do and there's nothing to undo. But there's a place that is alive in each of us and all things. That is that light. And if we can connect with that in some small way, whether it's in nature, meditation, or just pausing to take a breath and come down out of the thinking mind and into the heart. And that's what I'd say. That's what I invite you to.
Oh, beautiful. I definitely went right into my heart. That was gorgeous. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Anna.
Pleasure.
So nice to be connected with you again.
It really is delightful. Yeah.
Aww. Well, we will talk soon. Thank you so much. And if you are wanting to, for all the viewers out there, and you want a little bit more of Anna, do let me know. And I'm so excited to offer the all access pass that you can, definitely. Oh, goodness me, I'm going to have to cut that bit out, I think.
That's okay.
Stop now.
Yeah, that's a good one to just, yeah. You can probably just do